Wow, we've got some wonderful faces appearing. How delightful. Jean, my goodness, haven't seen you since Thanksgiving.
I keep popping up here and there.
Yes, you do. Thank goodness. And Doreen, welcome. We're so glad to see you.
Thank
Where,
you so
where
much.
are you, Doreen?
New Jersey.
Oh my gosh, isn't this is a wonderful technology. Never before. I thought that I should live so long to see all this. This is great. And Timothy, where are you from?
Boise, Idaho.
Oh my gosh. Have you been to any of our events before?
Yes, a couple of times before.
Oh, great. Well, welcome
And
back.
longtime reader since 1971.
71. That's a
Another 50 plus reader.
Yep.
I know of at least four of us already, and probably more. Yeah, I'm counting you, Kurt, and I'm counting Patrick and myself, and now Timothy. Who else has got 50 or more years?
I think I'm pretty close.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We should start a baby boomers club, Urantia Baby Boomers Club.
It's even more profound than that. We are, you might say, the vanguard, the first generation who received the book. And that it should arrive in our lifetime is a miracle, but it should arrive when we were in our youth and eager to learn these things. That's a real boon because we were awake and eager to hear it. And look how long we've carried the message. Congratulations to all of you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
That's it. Now, who knows what they have expected of us, but I hope we've come up to at least a part of it.
Yeah, that's what I think of often because they say that we're going to be held accountable to the gifts. Well, the Urantia book was one of our biggest gifts, right?
Yes.
Yes,
And the
absolutely.
phrase, to those who have been given much, much is expected.
Yep.
Done.
And here's Kaylee. See Kaylee with the dog?
Oh, yeah.
Kaylee is
Helper.
Hi, everyone.
Kaylee
Hi,
is
Kaylee.
a brand new reader.
Hi.
And she's responsible for the flyer you got. So
I
Kaylee,
am, yes.
assistant. She's a miracle worker.
And this is Sadie.
Hi, Sadie.
Hi, Sadie.
Golden Retriever.
Yeah, she's a golden.
And Peter Santianello. Where are you from?
He's muted right now.
He's
Oh,
muted.
Yeah.
Unmute yourself if you'd like, Peter, and tell us a little about yourself. Love to hear from you. I see that our leadership person, Debbie, is here.
Yeah.
Debbie.
I just saw Judy, and then she disappeared.
Oh,
You haven't said hello to Janice yet, Diane.
Oh, Janice, of course. Janice is such a familiar person in my life that it's like, of course, Janice would be here. She's one of our sacred people.
you had reminded us enough. Thank you for that.
Janice is in Florida. Can you imagine such a gathering? And Keith is the person who keeps us going technologically. He's our savior. So Keith is going to bail us out if we run into trouble here with illustrations and images. And we have a Judy. Hi, Judy.
Hi,
What is your last name?
Swanik.
Oh, Judy Schwanek, the name I've been hearing all my life. Nice to see you.
I doubt it. I can put it up there. I'm in Vista, North San Diego.
Oh, wow. Good.
Yeah, that's something for a church service. They like us to support people that have differences, diversity. It's not about me. That's about welcoming other people. I'll put my name up there if you need that.
Well, thank you. Yes, I've recently seen your name in some communications. So you're busy doing the good work somehow.
I try my best.
Yes.
I have some challenges.
Oh,
Yeah.
at this age, don't we all? Yes. But
Yeah.
That's a kind of a test of our fortitude, I think. Don't you think that they send us these physical challenges, especially us old timers, and then step back and see what we're going to do with it.
Definitely. In my life, yeah. You really, I have to learn how to embrace this awareness right in the midst of chaos. Now, you guys don't have that, but I happen to, get a lot of opportunities to be run through these quizzes, and I don't always pass, but I keep coming.
You did it so wisely. Yes.
Oh,
And
that-
there's Suzanne. Hi, Suzanne. She's another very familiar face in one of our soul groups, which you're going to hear a lot about today. And Kurt, of course, one of our speakers, as well as Patrick. Kurt, you're in here twice. We'd love to see you. You're in
Can't get enough of me.
I can't get enough of you.
He's too big for one window.
Well, I want to welcome you to today's quarterly presentation of the Urantia Book Los Angeles Society. That's where you've landed, or UBLA. There should be an S in there somewhere, but it got lost. UBLA is how we're known. Our purpose, is so you know what we're up to over here, is to foster a spiritual community dedicated to learning, sharing, and living the teachings of the Urantia Book. And that the same motto as our mother group, the Fellowship of the Urantia Book. We personally, our own society, we like to foster strong, satisfying connections. That's what the original brotherhood was for, is connecting people who are readers of the book and developing a community. As central to pursuing our mission. So take a pencil and mark your calendars for our next upcoming gatherings. August the 17th is Jesus's birthday pool party at the home of Mark Erickson, who's right there.
Mark, Wayne, and Ron.
Mark and Ron and Wayne.
And they do a bang up job at their home in Anaheim. So this was an in-person gathering and not going to be Zoom. So you got to come to California for that. And so we have our November 23rd big Thanksgiving home cooked dinner by guess who? Wayne, Ron, Mark. And that's at the Unitarian Church also in Anaheim. But we have in the past also Zoomed those dinners. You can't join us for the meal, but we have a speaker. And so you can zoom in and hear the presentation. We hope to see you all there. Well, today's topic, I've been waiting for this, exploring the hunger for soul groups. There's a relevant quote from the Urantia Book for today's topic, and it's going to be provided by our team's treasurer, Mark. Mark?
All right, here we go. It's from paper 100, section 1. It reads, habits which favor religious growth embrace cultivated sensitivity to divine values, recognition of religious living in others, reflective meditation on cosmic meanings, worshipful problem solving, sharing one's spiritual life with one's fellows, avoidance of selfishness, refusal to presume on divine mercy, living as in the presence of God.
Ooh, beautiful. Wow.
Well, here's a tip. The punchlines are sharing one's spiritual life with one's fellows and recognition of religious living in others, thus the soul groups. We are really incredibly blessed with our guides today. That was, I'm sure, the work of some unseen friends. Patrick, an artist, was first invited to speak to our group 2-3 years ago, Patrick. And you were insisting that we draw a picture of our souls. for a math person, that seemed to me the most absurd thing you could ask anybody to do. But then he followed it up later on by speaking and prompting us to shift our identity to our souls, and numerous other unimaginable contortions, which really test the fortitude to hang in with it. And guess what? You actually can achieve it. But he'll be there to tell us the soul in soul groups today. And from his artistic point of view, it's just really a blessing. We will have an amazing history of what we thought we invented, the soul group. We were so proud of ourselves because when Patrick spoke, there was such a demand for more that we had to create a series of sessions with Patrick, weekly groups that get together and go in whatever wild yonders that he wants to take our minds. But they wanted it. They wanted to know more.
Oh my God, thank you.
Yeah. So therefore, we had our group and we didn't know what to call it, so we called it the Soul Group. And so Patrick is experienced in this. He had already gotten one going before that. So I'd like to, I would like to read something from Larry Mullins. We did not invent the Soul Group. This is a short paragraph from his writing, Living the Teachings, a new concept in Urantia study groups. Now, this goes back to something like 2005 or 6. So we really were not the first.
More
And
like 1990, Diane.
was it 90? I was trying to find the date, and that was the only one that came up. That's amazing. So Kurt is an expert in the history of the development and evolution of this much needed phenomenon called soul groups. And this is what Larry had to say. He says, several years ago, my wife Joan and I began meeting with a small group of kindred spirits to explore the process of more effectively living the teachings of Jesus, as revealed in the Urantia book. The commonality of such a group is simply a mutual desire for religious growth, and its mission is to support members in their efforts to actualize their spiritual potentials. After a year or so, I noticed that something was beginning to happen to me. I began to discover what seemed to be a new and unfathomable kind of love. I began to learn that if we understand and appreciate our brothers and sisters, we will actually learn to love them. I was to discover that this love will increase over a time to a degree that I could scarcely have imagined before experiencing the group. And that was enough to intrigue me. What was this phenomenon that came over him and the other members of the group that seemed to bind them? Well, luckily for Patrick's group, I have now also discovered, there's something that comes over you in this group that you seem to become very close, and this strange kind of love overcomes you. And you feel very connected, and you never sort of ever feel lonely again because you know you have this connection. But just the discovery of such feelings is exhilarating. So I'd like to turn this over to Phil Calabrese, our education and vice president. So maybe you can go ahead now and introduce our speakers.
All right, thank you.
Oh, some rules of the road about raising your hand to speak, because we will have question and answer and discussion after both the speakers have spoken. So write down your questions so we be sure and have them at hand when we open the window for that. And you know where the doodads at the bottom are.
Yeah, we're not gonna have them write in the chat because it takes too much time to do that.
Right.
And they're distracted by that. So we'll just have them ask questions or write it down the side, rather than trying to write it in the chat.
Because we really treasure those questions that are going to come up. So write them down and then raise your hand and Phil will take good care of you.
Okay. All right, well, thanks, Diane. I did have a couple of three things here I wanted to mention first. First thing I want to do is mention Jesus. He asked us to remember him, and I like to do that whenever we're together.
You know, we got our wine.
I'll drink to that.
And so, yeah, let's see, hold the questions until after the sort of formal presentation. And then we'll open it up for questions. And, you know, you put up your digital hand. You know how to do that. It says reactions at the bottom, and then you can,
Raise your hand.
yeah, and I'm trying to see how the heck I can raise my hand.
At the bottom. Oh,
Yeah, I don't see. Funny.
Yeah, well, mine moves around too.
Oh, now I see it. Okay, so here's how you have to hit the reactions button. That's
right.
when you get the chance to raise your hand. So
If you don't see reactions, you might have to hit the more. It has the three dots in a circle, and then
Oh, yeah.
it'll show up.
yeah, that's right. You might have more. Okay. So all right, let me introduce our two speakers. One is Patrick Yesh, and he's up in the left-hand corner, upper left-hand corner. He's a professional portrait artist and fine artist, a photographer and a teacher. He's got a Bachelor of Arts in Fine Arts, Bachelor in Fine Arts, and from Wayne State University in Detroit, and a Master's in Education from University of British Columbia in Vancouver Island. Presently living in Alberta, British Columbia, Ontario, with his family, and he's been a UB student for 50 plus years. His work is with the goal of achieving emotional intelligence, personal spiritual growth based on the principle that personality integrates mind, body, and spirit, and emotions when free will choices are made. And that covers a lot of important concepts: personality, mind, body, spirit, will, choice, emotions. And another line here I think is worth reading: intellectual understanding alone misses spiritual growth. By truly loving someone in an unselfish service, an experience of happiness and joy results. Kurt Dira, also a 50-year plus reader, student of the Urantia book, was born and raised in northern Wisconsin, close to my hometown, Chicago, the eldest of 6 children and in a devout Roman Catholic family. Well, I had one, but maybe not as devout. And well, I was devout, but I'm not sure they were until I started going to church and going to school. He went to college in Milwaukee and discovered the Urantia book actually 52 years ago. He's married and raised 3 children. He was an architectural designer and lived for 20 years in South Florida. Then he moved back to Milwaukee, where his children and grandchildren are. And since retiring, he has dedicated himself to the many Urantia-based ministries, to many of these ministries. For instance, Urantia conferences and speakers and speaking and ministry. He's a graduate of the Christ Experiment School of Ambassadors, you know, Jeanette Reed School. He's taken and taught courses at the Urantia University Institute, UUI. And now he's participating in 3 spiritual sharing groups. One's called the Circles of Trust, run by Parker Palmer, Living the Teachings by Larry and Joan Mullins, the Progress Project course by UUI, and I guess he's got his own religion and personal experience called ROPE for the past 2.5 years, serving those who consider themselves, quote, spiritual but not religious, to develop their relationship with God. A lot of people who call themselves that even believe in God. So I'll be interested in hearing what he has to say about that. All right, with that, I think that's enough introduction. And who are we going to have first?
Kurt is going to start us out this time.
Kurt?
Kurt.
Well,
Right.
okay. Well, thank you, Phil. I first got interested in the idea of spiritual groups quite a number of years ago. And there was something that was started called the Retreat Network, which was to bring people together to do retreats. And in the process of that, we started learning how important it is to share our lives with each other, because that's what retreats do. And about the same time, I discovered that there was this guy named Larry Mullins, who I had seen give a wonderful, most memorable talk I had ever heard at a Urantia conference at Snowmass in 1990. And he had discovered, or he had developed, along with his wife Joan, this program called Living the Teachings. So about the same time, this was in the early 2000s, I got involved with the Living the Teachings group with a good friend of mine, Susan Myers. And we would travel back and forth between our 2 houses. So it was 2 couples, and would meet every other week to have a Living the Teachings group. And it was a wonderful experience. And it worked fine until, of course, somebody moves. And then we didn't have Zoom back then, so we couldn't keep it going. When COVID started, I started getting involved with the Urantia University Institute, and they had the cafes, and really enjoyed the cafes. Really kept me sane when I was totally isolated and didn't have anyone else to talk to. I had also just gone through a divorce, so it was felt very isolated, and it was being able to make connections and share in these cafes was really wonderful. But in the fall of that year, Angie Thurston and April Helen created something called the Progress Project that I'll talk about a little bit more, which really jump-started my spiritual growth in a way that I hadn't in the previous 48. I've been reading the Urantia book for 48 years, but I hadn't really ever developed a spiritual practice, which was kind of the idea behind the Progress Project, as I'll explain. And doing that kind of jump-started a whole series of things where I became aware of the power that these kind of spiritual sharing groups have. And I started looking into them, discovered that other Urantia book readers some were doing the Living the Teachings. Some had grasped onto the ideas of Parker Palmer and his sharing circles, which is something Gard Jameson has promoted quite widely. There was the Progress Project. And Bill and Kate Cooper worked on something called the Spiritual Family Way. And so there was a lot of good stuff out there that I'm going to share with you now. So let me go and share screen here. So talking about spiritual sharing, or as Patrick likes to call them, soul groups. So what is a spiritual sharing or soul group? Well, for me, it's a small group meeting with probably 3 to 6 members are ideal, but some can work with a few more, but they can't get too big, or you can't have effective sharing. It's designed to promote sharing and support the spiritual progress of the members. Truth, beauty, goodness, and love, those high values, are the guiding values for the group. Members develop group methods and goals which are agreed to by all, so the groups can become whatever they want to be. Group meeting rules provide for order and respect for each person. Generally, there's a facilitator that runs a meeting, that runs the agenda and keeps order in the meeting. All the groups that I've been involved with, only one person speaks at a time, and all the others listen respectfully. And another key element in all the groups is that members agree to strict confidentiality in the group for the sharing that takes place there. The group as a whole has sovereignty over itself, and it decides how it's run, and it may expel unruly members. So why have a spiritual sharing soul group? Well, these are some reasons that I've come up with. First, it's to support those who are ready and willing to grow from just the intellectual study of the Urantia book to dynamically living its teachings. As a natural outgrowth of study, many discover an urge to share our inner spiritual life with others and with God. That's one of my favorite quotes in the book is 111:5:1. Doing the will of God is nothing more or less than an exhibition of creature willingness to share the inner life with God. We can't really grow on our own. God's designed us to be able to learn with others and in association with our fellows. There's very few tasks for the lone individual in the universe. We're really designed to work and grow with others. We learn as others serve us and teach us through example and sharing of their stories. We learn as we serve others, and eternal service is our destiny. We create loving accountability around personal spiritual goals. We're vulnerable, and so we're able to practice having trust in others and God in these groups as we share what's really inside of us. And we're in a position to be of loving service to those we share with. But remember that we're there to support, not fix them. These groups are to support each other, to share with each other. They're not therapy groups where we're going to fix somebody else's problems. The only person's problem that we can fix is our own. So, examples of spiritual sharing soul groups. As I mentioned, first was Living the Teachings, developed by Larry and Joan Mullins about 1990. The second was Circles of Trust. These are kind of in chronological order that I became aware of them. Circles of Trust, which was developed by Parker Palmer, who's a professor at the University of Wisconsin. And he described these sharing circles in his book, A Hidden Wholeness, in 2004. And you can find quite a bit of information if you look for Parker Palmer Circles of Trust in a Google search. And I'll share I have information that I can share with you that I've been able to put together. The Progress Project was a Urantia, as I mentioned, a Urantia University Institute course by Angie Thurston and April Helen. It began about 2020. And it's run so far 4 times. And I became very involved with that. I was in the first class and then became a server to help others that were going through the subsequent classes. The Spiritual Family Way is just a simple framework that emerged from the work of Bill and Kate Cooper, Sharon Porter, Mary Huggins, and Ted Lanier, who had for many years run a thing called, many of you will know, the Adventures in Spiritual Living. It was doing retreats and spiritual growth seminars for many years. Then there's the Rope Growth Group, which I developed a couple of years ago when the Progress Project wasn't going on, or some people that I knew wanted to become involved with the Progress Project. There was no, they couldn't make the time. Something happened that they couldn't get into the class. So I decided to see what would happen if I started my own group. And I've been running one now for 2.5 years. Another one I didn't put on here, but there's a series of men's groups that meet that Don Guyman has been facilitating for a number of years, and he's expanded it now to 3 different groups that meet different days of the week, and that are basically this kind of spiritual sharing group. And finally, we have the Agandanter Soul Group, which was started by Patrick Yesh with the help of Elizabeth Callahan in the UUI to get it started. And Patrick will be discussing more about that. So first, let's look at Living the Teachings. First, I think Larry started probably developing it in the 1980s, but I know that they actually started meeting about 1990. Our good friend Andre Rodetis was in that early group, and he told me just recently, Larry and Joan had moved to Florida for many years, but they recently moved back to Boulder, and they've got the group going back together again after over 30 years.
Wow.
The first, it was the first Urantia book-based spiritual sharing group that I was been able to find. He published a how-to guide to forming and running a group, and that's what I used when I had my group with Susan Myers and her husband years ago. The principles are based on the teachings of the Urantia book and Jesus, and he lays out, has quite a series of quotes that you can find in his writings that lay out the principles and exactly where he took them from. And a quote from his writings: "The purpose of a Living the Teachings group is simply to provide an autonomous, safe place where a small number of laypersons can share their spiritual experiences as they cultivate the improvement of their inner lives. Groups are a place of growth, not self-examination." And that comes from a line in the paper 140. Hold on a second here. I just got to move something out of the way so I can read it. The 148:27. "The 3 apostles were shocked this afternoon when they realized that their master's religion made no provision for spiritual self-examination. All religions before and after the times of Jesus, even Christianity, carefully provide for conscientious self-examination, but not so with the religion of Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus' philosophy of life is without religious introspection. The carpenter's son never taught character building. He taught character growth, declaring that the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed. But Jesus said nothing which would prescribe self-analysis as a prevention of conceited egotism." So these aren't a place where we're going to be delving into I mean, a group could probably do that, but his living the teaching group was not meant to be a place where we dug back into our past and figured out how our mothers and fathers screwed us up and how we change. It's a place of how do we grow from here? How do we connect with God? How do we better connect with others and go forward and grow from where we are? So this was, Mark read this earlier, but it bears repeating because comes from the guiding principles that Larry Mullins lays out. Habits which favor religious growth embrace cultivated sensitivity to divine values, recognition of religious living in others, reflective meditation on cosmic meanings, worshipful problem solving, sharing one's spiritual life with one's fellows, avoidance of selfishness, refusal to presume on divine mercy, living as in the presence of God. As Diane pointed out, with sharing one's spiritual life with one's fellows and recognition of religious living in others is something that can only happen in groups. But the groups are there to facilitate this kind of growth and this kind of religious growth that is embodied in this quote. So this is the advice that Larry Mullins gives for forming a group. It says, find kindred spirits and then close your group. These kind of groups are going to be, they can't be a group where people are coming in and out of constantly. They're a group where kind of sharing and trust has to take place. So it has to be a closed group of people that meet on a continuing basis. Group solidarity is based on loyalty, fairness, tolerance, and love. All great qualities for having a supportive and loving group. He says to choose carefully who's invited to the group. Be selective. It's far more difficult to purge the group of unruly members who make meetings difficult for others than it is to select people that you can get along with and have common spiritual goals. Establish a minimum commitment of time frame for, say, 6 months or a year, along with a meeting schedule, so that there's a commitment on the part of each person that they're going to stick through this spiritual growth group process. Add no new members unless all in the group are agreed on it. And he says 7 or 8 people is about the maximum, and I would definitely say that's about the maximum to really in a group. So running a group, he finds that it's helpful to have a process, and this is his suggested example. You appoint a leader to facilitate and present the discussion topic for each meeting. So you can rotate through the group so everyone has a chance to lead the group. And that helps each of us grow as we take that responsibility. Choose discussion topics that are more spiritual rather than intellectual. So, don't look for the stuff in energy, mind, and matter. Go to the religion papers, for example, or the Jesus papers. You'll find the spiritual material there that you can really work with that will help us with how we live in this world. Make the meeting ambience safe, loving, safe, and supportive. Meetings have a spiritual goal, and they must use spiritual methods. So those are run your meetings by the highest values that you can. Begin with a prayer and a moment of silence. Very important. Share the experiences in our spiritual lives since the last meeting. So generally, they would, at every meeting that we had, we would talk about what's going on in our lives and how are we doing with our spiritual practices that we're trying to develop? What are our challenges? Where are our successes? No interruptions are allowed. So if someone is talking, that we pay attention just to that one person, and everyone listens respectfully. He said, use the talking stone. You know, you pass, whoever's got the stone is the only one that can speak if it's needed. No critique, and along with that, no critiques or crosstalk is allowed. Give no advice unless it is asked for. Very important. And note that each group may decide on their own goals and methods. If somebody wants to form a Living the Teachings group and they really want to do something differently than what he suggests, that's all fine, as long as it's by common agreement of the group members. Well, let's move on to the circles of trust. And one of the things that you're going to notice as we go through this is that you're going to see a lot of common elements pop up again and again. Circles of trust were developed by Parker Palmer in early 2000s and described in his book, A Hidden Wholeness. So if you want to learn about it, get that book. You can read about the circles of trust. You can also go online. He has videos. They have a number of YouTube videos and a website that you can view. It's not specifically a Urantia book-based program. It's a general program for sharing, but its principles are used by groups of Urantians that I know for their sharing groups. And it provides guidelines for participation and a framework for running a sharing group. The principles of a circle of trust are that everyone has an inner teacher, our thought adjuster, spirit of truth. Inner work requires solitude and community. So it's something that takes place within ourselves, but we do it within the framework of the community of other individuals, our brothers and sisters in this world. Inner work must be invitational. It's not something you can force on somebody. It has to be something somebody wants to do. Our lives move in cycles like the seasons. So some things may happen to us in one time in our lives, and we think we've gone through it. Well, golly whiz, something else comes back later on that is very reminiscent of something we went through before. So we're always going through that process where we're ascending, but kind of ascending in a spiral. We're kind of go through similar things, but always at a higher level. An appreciation of paradox enriches our lives and helps us hold greater complexity. And I'm not sure exactly what he means by that, but I'll let you ponder it. We live with greater integrity when we see ourselves as whole. So encouraged, that's from the book name, A Hidden Wholeness. He says, a hidden wholeness underlies our lives. So it's a matter of trying to bring these different aspects of ourselves that might seem disjointed together. So the circles of trust approach involves creating spaces that are open and hospitable, but resource rich and charged with expectancy. So I think we can, if we apply this to Urantia groups, we have create this open, hospitable environment, but we have the rich resource of the Urantia book to charge us, give us what the power we need for the group. And we're kind of expecting that things are going to happen. Committing to no fixing, advising, saving, or correcting one another. This is one that Laurie Mullins had, and it's pretty consistent with most groups. Ask honest, open questions to hear each other into speech. So it's Jesus asked open questions to people. You know, to those he said, thought the most, he said the least. So by asking the group questions, that's how we can draw each other out. Exploring the intersection of the universal stories of human experience with the personal stories of our lives. So in talking with each other, we not only, and sharing our inner lives, we get to expand our view of this whole idea of what it means to be human. It uses multiple modes of reflection so everybody can find their place and pace, meaning that there's different, we attack the question from different ways, and in seeing it come out in the stories of different individuals, so that we have more than one mirror reflecting back at us, so we get a broader perspective. The approach involves honoring confidentiality, as I've mentioned before, and being present in that moment as fully as possible for ourselves and those we're meeting with. So that's it for the circles of trust. Next, I'm going to talk about the Progress Project, which I've had quite a bit of experience with. It was a UUI course, and it was a 12-week program within the UUI curriculum. We began with a preliminary orientation meeting that takes place before the course begins, so that the people who were interested would know what they were getting themselves in if they signed up, because they really wanted people to commit fully to the whole 12-week program. And that the first course that they took was had the highest success rate as far as people staying in the course. Of 29 people that came into that course, 27 finished it together. That was pretty much unheard of with the UUI courses. But it was the nature of the course and the way it was structured, as you'll see, really made people commit to that course for their own growth and to support others. So it was based on triads, which groups of 3 that met weekly during the course, and you stayed with the same triad through your whole 12 weeks. All the triads met together for a large class once a week, where a topic lesson for the week is introduced and discussed. And that it becomes the focus for the triad meeting that you would have during that week with your group of 3. Each triad had a support server who's not in the triad, that was there to guide them through the process, answer questions, and support the triad as needed. So with working out little material details, helping them, there were kind of Google documents that they were encouraged to fill out with goals and things like that. So the server would help them with that. And if any issues came up, we were there to help support them in whatever way we could. The goal for each participant I guess I need to rewrite that sentence, but the goal for each participant is to develop a spiritual practice or habit that would enhance their connection with God and others. So that's what everyone was asked to do, and to commit for doing that for 12 weeks. And for me, that particular habit is something I still do today. It changed my life. It made me a much better server. I may be much more connected to God. I started seeing God working in my life in ways that I had never done before, because I had never developed a spiritual practice. And it takes about 12 weeks to develop a habit. And so for this 12 weeks, I was supported by my friends in my triad and with the rest of the group to do that. And the final thing that I think really makes the Progress Project a little different than some of the others is that the triads had to make a covenant and a sacred commitment to each other to support each other in their efforts to make spiritual progress. And I think that is an extremely powerful element that if it's missing, it really takes something away. And I have some experience to back that up. So this was the suggested covenant for the Progress Project. Each triad was free to change it if they wanted, but this one is the one they suggested, and our triad found that it worked very well for us. We gather together to cultivate spiritual growth in ourselves and each other. While we aspire to unity of spirit, we do not seek uniformity of belief or practice. We ask only a shared commitment to growing closer to God and more useful to our fellows. Each of us enters into this covenant knowing that our own progress is inextricably bound to one another's. And therefore, we commit ourselves to partnering with God, each in our own way, toward a life of unbroken communion with Spirit. We commit ourselves to spiritual practice, each in our own way, to the fullest extent possible in this season. We commit ourselves to our triad, to showing up for each other with unfailing encouragement, that we may each achieve our spiritual goals. Should a conflict arise in our triad, we commit first to doing what we can to resolve it in a Jesusonian manner, and then to reaching out to our server or instructors for help if needed. Together, we will strive to grow in our own unique expressions of truth, beauty, goodness, and love. While our paths are personal, our purpose is shared. And I think that covenant is created a atmosphere within the triads that really helped us because it was a sacred commitment. We were committing to God and to the other people in the group. And together, by meeting together twice a week, we were reinforcing that and really able to make progress. My triad is still meeting, over 4 years later. So they had a suggested triad meeting format. And so we'll see some of these elements are very similar to what was in the Living the Teachings, and a little different than the Circles of Trust, because Circles of Trust wasn't overtly religious. So we'd have basically a 90-minute meeting. One of the triad members would be the facilitator for the meeting. We'd begin with kind of greetings and social time for about 10 minutes. We'd go into worship for 10 minutes. The facilitator would lead a 10-minute worship with prayers. We would go over our covenant, where we would each take turns reading a section of the covenant to remind ourselves of why we were there. There would be a period for study and discussion on the topic for the week. We were given a, hang on a second. My spiritual practice, one of the little spiritual practices I have, is to turn to God every 3 hours. And I still do that. That's one of the things I developed during the Progress Project. And it's time.
Yeah.
So study and discussion for 10 minutes. Generally, they had us working in the adjuster papers because there was we started with paper 111, which is just rich material to get us working with our thought adjusters. And then we would check in have a check-in about our spiritual insights and growth over the past week. We would then set spiritual goals. We would write down our goals in a Google Docs so that we could keep a record of our goals. We would have weekly goals and then goals for the whole course. And at the end, we'd share a moment of gratitude. And the triads were encouraged to continue to meet after the end of the course, and many of them did. And like I said, I still meet with my triad, and it's wonderful. We hadn't ever met in person until we met at a summer study session a couple of years ago in Chicago. And it was just this wonderful meeting. We knew each other so well. It was a wonderful experience to finally get to be with each other in person. But we could do it on Zoom. So the Spiritual Family Way is a set of principles developed by Bill and Kay Cooper. And these are applicable to any of the spiritual sharing groups that you might have. So, number one, be spirit-led. Before beginning discussion, relax and direct your attention inward. Focus on feelings of gratitude to connect with the spirit. During the discussion, stop to reconnect if anyone requests it. Each person remains receptive to spirit and allows the spirit to guide them. 2, love each other. Make a safe place. Treat each other with gentleness, courtesy, appreciation, and respect. Make sure each person has an opportunity to participate. Share only one idea at a time. Kind of like Jesus would do in the parables. They each had only one main idea. Take turns. Be gracious. 3, listen. Slow down. Listen to understand the speaker without planning what you'll say. Pause to digest after each person speaks. When you speak, do so without insisting that others agree. Finally, number 4 was cooperate. Respect and value each person's input. Explore together. No need to correct one another or engage in disagreements. Just share your personal perspective, knowing that each person's experience can be enlightening. Build on the useful part of each other's ideas. Create something new together. I think that it's a wonderful 4-step synopsis that if you just use that as a guideline, you can create a really good sharing group. And the last group that I'm going to talk about is my rope growth group. And I developed this, as I said earlier, in 2022. And it was an effort to provide the benefits of the Progress Project course to some friends of mine who weren't able to join the UUI course, either because it was full or was at a bad time. So I created a group that met on Sunday evenings. Group time I found was generally pretty good to get people to commit to. I did it to show that as an individual, I could organize an effective spiritual growth group. I didn't have to have Urantia University behind me or any kind of other authority. I could do it as an individual person. I could bring together a group of people that I invited to join and run a group just like I had seen done in all these other instances. So the meetings were run on principles that I gleaned from all the above groups. We begin with a check-in on how we're progressing with our personal spiritual paths. And then whoever is facilitating, and I began by doing the facilitation for the first number of weeks. And then once people got the idea, then they were invited to facilitate and come up with their own topics. So a topic was chosen based on spiritual lessons in the Urantia book. with other spiritual resources being brought in as appropriate. So we would bring in from other books where we could find ideas for spiritual growth that would be appropriate and helpful. And the goal is to support each other in living the religion of Jesus, the religion of personal experience, the rope. And that being the spiritual goal for our lives. I could go on a lot more, but we're kind of running out of time. And I think that what I can do is I will paste my email information into the chat. And if you want to get more information on those the four groups, the Living the Teachings, Parker Palmer Sharing Circles, the Progress Project, and the what was the last one? The Spiritual Family Way. All you have to do is email me, and I will send you materials. If you decide you want to start a group and you want to discuss it, ask questions, I'll make myself available to any of you that would like to start a group. So that brings us to the Agandanter Soul Group that Patrick Esch and Elizabeth started a couple years ago. So I'll turn it over at this point to Patrick and stop share.
Thanks, Kurt. You're muted, Patrick. Yeah. Unmute.
My brain is muted. Did you want to say anything, Diane?
Well, I just wanted to mention to Kurt, this thing doesn't stop with just us. I just found another group, and it's not so much in the spiritual, but it's for people who support the development of others. It's called the Togetherness Practice, and it's out of the United Kingdom, and also kind of in conjunction with the University of Arizona, of all things. And they're trying to find ways that the qualities we might foster within and around us to persevere through challenge, activate our potential, and shape the direction of change. Well, there's often many organizations that want to direct change. And so this one, called the Togetherness Practice, kind of straddles the soul group and the direct a better world type of thing. So I think be on the watch. This is interesting. See what clues you see in the news and in conversations of people who are starting something and trying to make a better world, a better person. I know there's an awful lot of loneliness because of the social media, especially among children. And we have an epidemic of suicide among our teenagers. It's a terrible thing. So you might feel some urgings yourself that you didn't recognize, but if it's in all of these other groups, it's in you too. So beware, you're also being targeted to do something wonderful. Oh, I want to make a bridge too. Although I mentioned that Patrick started a soul group with our society here that you're participating in now. After introducing Patrick to Elizabeth Callahan and the UUI, she was so impressed she invited him to give a course in the UUI, which he did. Homework and all. And at the end of that course, she experienced the same thing I did. There was such a demand from the participants to do more, that she had to start a soul group. So that's what evolved. Our group joined with her group. And so now Patrick is the host of a soul group because of pure demand from the participants of experiencing his either presentations or his course. So there's something magic going on here.
There's lots of magic involved in living from your soul. Boy, is there ever. How many people here have already achieved that personal goal of living from your soul and your soul mind? Just so I know my audience, right? That you're doing that more frequently than ever before, and you can see it increasing in your life. Which is basically your soul, basically by Jesus's definition, is your relationship with your thought adjuster. Correct? That we have an agreement with that one, right? And
Sure. To clarify, that means that you're kind of always checking in.
yeah,
with
you're always
spirit
right. Yeah.
helpers. Yeah.
Because they say in a book, like, the human mind goes along with the thought adjuster even after fusion. Isn't that incredible? It really is concept, because we're going to work together always. And he needs my human mind. I don't know why, but it's growing all the time. My human mind is growing all the time in relationship to the experiences that I'm having with him in fusion when we're fused. But when it comes to personality choices, they say, because my talk's going to be on personality and soul, because you can't, they go hand in hand together. Each one, whatever you do with that either part of you that's divine, there's two parts of us that are divine. And they say and what they're giving us in the Urantia book, which I love about the book, is this new concept of who we are. We're not stuck in our human mind reflecting on our behavior and thoughts in terms of ego anymore. I mean, you can't, it's impossible. Once you start to grasp what they're saying, who we truly are, we're truly an eternal, infinite being. And you have the opportunity now to choose that if you want to, because they say we already have Morancha mind. We are already, it's here. Our Morancha soul mind is here. And I'll show you some, I can do that. I guess I can start sharing now with this, right? Have you got it? Oh, not yet. One more hit, share.
That's
Okay, everybody has that one?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'll be going through some of these, and these are some of the quotes. And before I get started, what excited me about this whole situation was one morning I woke up and said, I realized, because I like to make affirmations of things. So they tell us we're Agendonters. So one morning I said, I'm an Agendonter. So I had to go look it up really fast, what that was. And it's spiritually minded people who are trying to be perfect like God. And an Agendonter is coming from a rebellion planet. Well, we're so cool here. We had 2 rebellions. So we're really an incredible planet. Plus, it's the incarnation planet of Michael as Jesus, in which he directly gave us information on how to live our most happiest and beautiful life and joyful life. So what happened was I began to realize, oh, people don't really understand who they are as a soul and who they are as an Agendonter. So everyone here is an Agendonter on this call. We're all Agendonters. And Agendonters, by the way, stay together forever. They keep us as a special group because we are coming from such an unusual situation like rebellion planets, that what we experience is different than normal planets. And therefore, we stay together and we are given special assignments. And once I realized that, I said, well, wait a minute, my soul group are all Agendonters, and we're going to be knowing each other and living together and working together and on special assignments together forever. Everyone here on this call is an Agendonter, and we're going to be working together as a team forever. And I went, oh my gosh, that's pretty incredible stuff. So I said, as I emphasize that with people and really emphasize that that's who we are and we're going to be working together, I said, we might as well start now and really tackling getting to know each other as intimately as possible. Just like they say we should get to know our thought adjuster as intimately as possible. We also need to learn who we are as intimately as possible. And that brought us together really well, because that's how our groups really evolved into this group where we were going to take a summer vacation and everybody yelled, no way. They wanted to meet every single week. And I met with them today at noon, my time, and there were 10 people. And I thought, oh, I'm giving 2 presentations. I thought they would all come to this one. But in reality, there we were, and we were discussing all kinds of things that came up. And what it is, it's such an intimate group. And like the rules that Kurt said, thanks Kurt for that. That's an incredible work that you did on research on everything that groups can do, because that's really gives people a idea of how complex and how meaningful groups can be. And as we did that, we began to love each other more, began to trust each other more, and we had to stop at a certain point and say, nobody else can come into this group because it's so intimate. We know so much about each other that you can't, after a while, after your soul group meets, you can't have new people come in. It's impossible, because you're way down the line in terms of intimate knowledge of each other. And that trust that develops is absolutely beautiful. It's so wonderful to have that kind of trust where you don't even think about trust anymore, really. So let's take a look at some of these quotes on what's happening is what's happening in all of us is we're bringing all of the information that the Urantia book is giving us as to who we are, these eternal beings, one with our thought adjuster. And in my personal experience, not all the time, but in my personal experience, we're already fused. We're practicing fusion now. It's like a good teacher will give the students a task that the teacher has developed so that they know that the child is going to be successful at it. So the Urantia book is giving us this information about who we are. And as we begin to assume the identity of our soul and assume the identity of our personality, and then we start to work on what they say. If you look at the Urantia book a lot, it has the word power after soul, power after soul powers, personality powers, mind powers, spirit powers. There's always that word power. So I began to look at it and say, hey, wait a minute, I'm not feeling that much power, because it was intellectual, because I wasn't actually experiencing my life and using my soul mind. When they talk about the soul mind, they're talking about a dual mind. Here it is here. This one. It's a dual mind, 1-10-2-6. To the extent that this soul identity is realized, meaning you have actually committed to it. And they say we don't expect you to hear the word of God, blah, 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 because you're so far apart, but we do expect you to have the intention. So if you have a really 1000% intention to become your soul, to live from your soul, it's going to happen. It's just going to happen over time. So don't be too upset if you don't think you're achieving it right away, but I'm telling you, it happens. You are mentally approaching the Urantia order of existence. Urantia mind is a term signifying substance and sum total of the cooperating minds of diversely material spiritual natures. Urantia intellect therefore connotes a dual mind in the universe dominated by one will. With mortals, this is a will human in origin, which is becoming divine through man's identification of the human mind with the mindedness of God. If you meditate on this for a while, you begin what they're saying is that I'm identifying my human mind with the mindedness of God as I do his will. So the affirmation, and I always make affirmations to make when I read something and I see that there's a possibility of an affirmation or they're suggesting that we do one, it's a direct communication with my thought adjuster. It's a way of speaking to him. And they're suggesting that we use these concepts and these suggestions of theirs. So my affirmation, and you'll make up your own with your own words. My Morancha mind is a dual mind, human and divine, dominated by your will, Father. You hear the difference in that? When you're making an affirmation, you want to take what they say and turn it into your own words, but use their material, use their concept. And the first one here, it's practice rewriting their suggestions of what we can do as our soul. How do we use our soul powers? During the life in the flesh, the evolving soul is enabled to reinforce the superior decisions of the mortal mind. The soul, being super material, does not itself function on a material level. Neither can the soul. And they're giving us these negatives. And whenever they're giving us negatives, I become alert, because listen to what happens to the sentence. Without the collaboration of some spirit of deity, such as the adjuster, function above the Morancha level. That I never did understand. Above the Morancha level? Neither does this soul make final decisions until death translates it, divorces it from material association. And then they go with the word accept. Wow, all this negativity up here, and then all of a sudden accept. When it's this material mind, delegate, that's my material mind, such authority freely and willing to such a Morancha soul of associated function. The personality power of decision choice is resident in the material mind circuits. That's the distinction we have to make. My personality is where my free will choice is. That's where I make my choices from, is my personality. Also, it's where my creativity is. So the power of making that decision is coming from my personality. Now, if you look at personality, where does it come from? It's your first gift of the Father in paradise. It's a piece of his personality. My personality is a piece of the Father's personality. That's an incredible concept of who I am as a personality. That's my ticket to infinity and eternity and beyond, because it's his. I'm a piece of God's personality. You're a piece of God's personality. And they say in the beginning of the book, they cannot explain to us in human language what personality really is, because then you'd be trying to describe God in all his aspects. But we have a piece of that, and we're going to learn as we go on in life, eternal life. We're going to learn, our personality is going to be revealed to us as we encounter every step of life all the way to paradise, because we'll always be learning about our personality and what our powers of the personality are. And here's the interesting way: is terrestrial moral growth proceeds, this self with its priceless, I love that always, priceless powers of choice, become increasingly identified with the emerging Morancha soul entity. That's when I started to tell people, hey, we have to sit down and we have to really, really seriously identify with ourself as a soul. What happens when you do that is that you immediately come into the power of your thought adjuster. Like we were talking about earlier, how many people really have that intimate relationship with their adjuster. And it has to be that intimate because he's you. So many times in the book, they say, he is you. You are him. You are in him. He is you. But if we're running around with just our human mind, identifying with our ego and our in our failures and looking backwards, we're not going to see that. That's why Jesus always said, look forward and be of service and live from your soul. So the soul is the embryo of our future Morancha vehicle personality identity. So there's the soul and the personality linked again. So the affirmation I made from this one is, I delegate to my soul freely and willingly the authority to make what? Can anybody answer that? Just look up here.
Make decisions.
Make
Yeah.
final decisions. Make final decisions. I delegate. I have the me, the human me, has to say to my soul, okay, I delegate to you, my soul. That's giving you hear it in the sentence. I love the way they make us do these things because they trick us into creating affirmations or a language which goes to our adjuster and changes our concepts of who we are immediately. And our old ego concepts of who we are as, problematic individuals that have had all these traumas in the past that are making me do what I do now or acting like I do now. As soon as you identify with yourself as soul, that starts to disappear. They say the power of antecedent causation. Watch for that sentence. They say it begins to disappear, begins to drop away. You don't identify yourself anymore. You can't with your old human self or all of your failings. That kind of self doesn't exist anymore after you delegate, after you assume the identity of your soul. And the personality, I love this sentence, and it caught me off guard. Personality of mortal man is neither body, mind, nor spirit. Neither is it the soul. The personality works with the soul forever, but it is not the soul. It's one of the changeless realities in otherwise ever-changing creature experience. It unifies all other associated factors of individuality. And it's the bestowal of the Universal Father when you're born. Sometime when you first come into the planet. So you're coming here with a piece of the Father's personality, and they say very often, we're on his personality circuit. And if you think about that, you go, what? I'm on God's personality circuit. I'm a piece of his personality on his circuit. So therefore, all those urges that are coming into your human mind, because it's the human mind that has the personality. That's what the thought adjuster is after in us, is that combination of his divine plan from paradise with our personality powers. Because we have to say to him in our daily struggles and so on, I don't get what's coming at me, but you do because you're a piece of God. This is my thought adjuster I'm talking to. And I give you access to my personality. You literally have to give God access to your personality with your human mind. You have to make that choice with your personality. But if you really understand personality, and I'm on the circuit of the Father in heaven, it's the Father talking to me through my personality. He's the one that's giving me the urges to make those moral decisions. And what is it? The divine plan. We haven't really discussed that enough with groups. What is my divine plan? Not mine. What's our divine plan? My thought adjuster's in mine, because he's making a divine plan for my life, our life together in paradise. And that divine plan was approved by many other adjusters, free adjusters, the ones that don't need humans as their counterpart. So here I am sitting with my adjuster, who's a piece of God, all the divine aspects of the Father in paradise. He's got a divine plan that's just ready to be shown and acted on, but I have to give him permission. I have to give him access to my personality. So my affirmation for that is, Father, I give you, or my thought adjuster, I give you the channel of our personality to manifest your divine plan in our life. And sometimes I think that I've got too many plans going on of my own, and I often forget, or when I get very confused about what I'm trying to do in life, I'll sit back and relax and take a deep breath and go, oh yeah, what's your plan? What do you want to do here? And I'm going, how could I ever, as a human being, think that I could create a better plan than you have for me? But then I have to sit down and meditate and really listen for what that plan of his might be. Let's see. So there sojourns within the human soul the spirit of truth. That not only do I have my thought adjuster to use his mind, I also have Michael's spirit of truth mind, and it says it sojourns within the human. I never saw that sentence before until I started to prepare this. There sojourns within my soul the spirit of truth. So I always thought Christ's mind, Jesus' mind, Michael's mind was in my heart, but here they're saying it's in my soul too. So these spiritual forces, the Holy Mother Spirit, the Father, and the Son, are all within my human mind. I have 3 paradise minds I can access within my human mind. That's how more a beautiful concept, self-image and self-value and self-worth can you have than assuming these new concepts of who we are as a human being. We're not just this human ego trapped in time and space and subject to all the things, antecedent causations that happened in our life. We're heading for an incredible experience, not only in the future. Remember, they're saying our Morontia soul is evolving now. Our evolving Morontia soul means we got it now. And I think the Urantia book's telling us, get busy living from your soul. Don't hang out in the human material world very much longer. I know we have to have a balance there with what we're doing, but we can also make, if you really think about your body in terms of physics, you know that as you break the human body down to its smallest particle, it's energy. And not only that, but paradise is within the core of every ultimaton. Holy mackerel. Within the core of every single one of my ultimatons is paradise. And I thought, wow, God never really leaves paradise. In other words, paradise is within me. And I'm sure the adjusters, that's part of what the adjuster is in me. So we can experience that perfection when he says, be perfect like me. I think it's possible in certain times to do something with him, especially in that sentence where they say, when your will and you see eye to eye with God, right? It happens. Whatever it is that you're trying to do happens. If he agrees that it's going to be part of your spiritual experience, that's going to make your spiritual life grow in the future, and you're going to affect people with that particular experience. So here's the last one, and I created some affirmations from it just to show you how, when I read something, I'll start breaking it apart and putting in. It's kind of a complex sentence. Mind transmutes the values of spirit into the meanings of intellect. Volition has power to bring the meanings of mind to fruit in both the material and spiritual domains. The paradise ascent involves a relative and differential growth in spirit, mind, and energy. The personality is the unifier of these components of experiential individuality. Now that sentence is sort of factual. They're just throwing it out there, trying to describe the relationship between mind, power, volition, which is choice, meanings, and we know we grow as the more someone's talking about chaotic or difficult experiences, that brings deeper meanings to mind. So in my language, I started to break it apart and was really surprised to what I was really reading here. Because sometimes when you have difficulty reading a passage, take their words, move them around in the sentence, and put them into I statements. So here it is. My mind transmutes the values of spirit into the meanings of my intellect. My volition, my free will choice of my personality, has the power to bring the meanings of my mind to fruit, to fruition. In other words, it'll happen if I choose it. On these new meanings that I'm realizing through some experience, sometimes I'll ask God when something's happening to me, what is it you're trying to teach me? Especially when there's difficulty, when it's difficulty and I can't figure out how I should react or what I should do. Is always mostly in terms of relationships with other people. And the other affirmation at the end is my personality unifies the relative and differential growth of my mind, my spirit, and my energy, my experiential individuality. And that's what the adjuster's after, is this. That's what the adjusters, they tell us, don't have, is experience. And even if I don't choose to go on forever, he's got the experience. He's taking that experience on to the Supreme. And we're all developing the Supreme in relationship as we experience each other in loving relationships. Here's some of the pictures that I did of people meditating, her with her angel. Another one of someone in worship. And I do, if I don't understand something as an artist, I'll graph it too. I'll make a picture of it. So here's the Holy Mother Spirit mind, thought adjuster mind, my Morancha dual mind, which is human, because it's intersecting with my superconscious. I didn't bring that up today, but in what we're trying to do as students of the Urantia, practitioners of the Urantia theology, is to bring the superconscious into the conscious. I want to be conscious of the presence of God all the time. The superconscious in my mind is my place in my mind, and psychology understands that. There's quite a bit in psychology about the superconscious mind now, and that's really lovely to see our science of psychology understanding and making way for faith and philosophy and all those kinds of things that happen in our superconscious mind. But what I'm suggesting that we do is bring these two together as much as possible. And that's the adjutant mind. We use the Holy Spirit's adjutant mind to do that. I love that my mind is a piece of her mind. And study the adjutants, because as you study them, you begin to see which ones you haven't been using, and you can call on them because they're spirit energy circuits. Like if someone said they hadn't been around enough people, or that they knew that they have to be more involved in community, that's one of the adjutants we remember which one it is? I can't remember. So what you want to
Council.
Council, right? One of council, adjutant of council. So I will pray to them. I'll just say, hey, you're in my mind. You're part of me. You're part of the Holy Spirit. So bring me into more association with people. And wow, you watch how fast that happens. So the adjutant mind, right? Conscious and unconscious. Now, the unconscious is where we get into reflection. And we had a big discussion the other day on where Jesus said he didn't want us to do his religion was not one of introspection, right? But there's another couple words in that quote that show that we still got to do it, but we have to make the decision personally as to whether we are how we're being influenced by our unconscious. That's what psychology is about. And we're beginning to learn that we can create new neural pathways in our brain. And I'm writing an article now. It's like, yeah, that's in our human life. Just think about it. We can create new neural pathways in our spiritual mind, in our soul mind. That's an incredible concept. It's an incredible fact and reality, because psychology finally got off the barrel and said, hey, wait a minute, no, we can change our mind. And there's lots of beautiful writing about how to change your mind. We are already there in faith in Christ's spirit of truth. So we want to use that. We have three paradise minds if I have three paradise minds in my mind, why am I using just my human mind? It's crazy. And they say something about it borders on ridiculous. There was one quote that we just had. Here's another chart. Free will choice, and that's in my creature mind. This is my human mind circle. In it, I have Jesus's mind. I have the Holy Spirit Morancha mind. I have pre-mind, his pre-mind, and I have in my superconscious, I have the mind of my adjuster. And the two of us working together gives me my soul dual mind. I have the spirit of truth, which is Christ Michael, Jesus's mind, in my heart. And now I just read that sentence, it's in my soul. And here's Holy Mother Spirit's mind, 7 adjutants. There they are. Which ones haven't you been using? Right? Use them. They're there. They're there for us to use anytime. So it's inward and upward. And this is our experience in time and space. And then we also have 2 seraphim who have mind, but they cannot, what is it? They can take our choices and then work them to the best possible result, but they cannot invade our mind. And every one of these, notice, goes up to paradise, which means that any choice you make, any decision you make, any action that you make either takes you towards the Father or away from the Father. There's that quote in there too. So the Creator Son is taking your experiences to the Paradise Son. The thought adjuster's immediately in communion with the Father, and the Infinite Spirit is being represented by the way you're using your mind here, her mind. Let's see, the others is, this was one I came up with recently for an illustration. I thought it was so cool, I put it in there, of one of our angels, right? And I think groups like these, we're working with each other, and we got to remind each other of the 7 circles of, is it 7? Well, we start out at the 7th and wind up in the 1st, but once you reach the 3rd circle, life gets pretty tough, because they're driving you towards constant communication with your adjuster. And that's something. So if life is getting difficult for you, be aware that I don't think we're always in like the 3rd, 2nd, or 1st. I think we're like sometimes in the 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and there's like blends of them. Because when you know that you've done the will of God, you know it. It goes through every cell in your body. I think Diane was talking about that. And because they say it's not so important that you use your mind to get to God, even though that's the way we do get there normally, but to feel his presence. And that's where you begin to feel his presence.
Yeah.
And this is another one that I did of service, a concept of being of service. And this is, I still don't understand this one, but it came off an abstract I did, and then I saw all these, and I gave it the name of, it's like Joan of Arc. It's like everything in her life that's going on and influencing her. And here's Gollum. Here's his face at her back and his finger pointing this way, and our animal nature and our soul and our monkey mind. Lots of things showed up in that. And I encourage you, like Diane said, to do, this is a picture of my soul. My rendition, I'm an artist, especially a portrait artist. So when I do an abstract, I see faces in it and I'll pull it out. so I encourage you to do an abstract painting, just throw color on a piece of paper and then look for things in it, like a Rorschach test, and then draw it, whatever comes out for you. It's going to surprise you because your right hemisphere does not operate like your left. Your right is your creative non-time space hemisphere. And you can find so much information in there to add to what your linear mind, your left hemisphere, tells you about things. This is a little chart I did on creativity, because personality, right, holds our creativity. And this is what they say: two channels of chaotic energy. If we do not control our creativity, it will mess around with our life pretty bad. It's dangerous and self-destructive. This is out of a quote: wholly haphazard, lack of plan, and no right order. So you have to plan and order your creativity. And that's in making you're literally, they're asking us to choose which way do you want to live, spontaneously and wholly haphazardly, without a plan or without any order. And that's going to be very dangerous to us, because that's the power of our creativity. It's going to be there anyway. It's like people who are bad people, but they're very creative in the way they're influencing the world. So it's the inner life that holds the creativity and our personality. And control, directed, and constructive, and with God's will. That's the choices they say we have. So I think that here's another one. I'm going to give you this chart and I'll send it to you, because this is how I would like you to create a chart of the center is, I have another circle in the center you can put in there, and that's my thought adjuster, because he's the center of my personality. But this is the soul, this is the human, this is the divine, and here's the personality wrapping all around it. I'll show you that up. And these horizontal lines is life. It's our channel. It's the channel that we're in, his personality channel. And so here you go. Oh, the Supreme. I had it down as the Supreme. The personality circuit, that's what it was. And I added that to the Supreme. I thought, yeah, sure, that would be the Supreme. So here's the divine and here's human self. This is what's in the divine self: Michael's spirit of truth, pre-mind, paradise plan, paradise mind. This, I would love to start a group with that right there, and really delineate. And you can do this. You can do it on your own. Just write down what you think from your experience so far, especially those over 50, is what is God's paradise plan for me? And how do I access his paradise mind, and Michael's paradise mind, and the Holy Mother Spirit's paradise mind? So here's personality and will, which is my human mind. That's in my human mind. That's why these two are so connected. You cannot unconnect them. This is what he needs from us all the way to paradise. All the way to paradise.
So Patrick, I'm wondering if we should have a break here for questions, because
Yeah, definitely. I'm through. That was it.
So we
you
want to
can-
find out if there's a possibility of sending any of these out to people. Would they put their email in our chat?
I'll put the email in the chat right now. Okay.
They should put their email so we can send them to them.
Okay. Well, that's Explorer. I'll find the chat and I'll put it in there. Already. So good. Yeah. Question time. Thank you very much for monitoring my time.
well, I can hear your enthusiasm, and it's just very infectious. So
Oh, I'll stop.
Patrick, remember to stop share.
chance to say something too.
The what?
I
Start
wanted
share.
to give other people a chance to react to and to Kurt. So
There's
Yeah, thanks, Susan. Yeah, you have your hand up, and Janice is next.
Well, I have a comment. I've been a participant of the Soul Group, and it started out doing affirmations, and I just wanted to kind of highlight that of all the doing affirmations, positive affirmations that working with my thought adjuster, I think I've had the most spiritual growth of anything I've done, even worship and prayer, but just I think because it gives the thought adjuster something to work with. When you're really affirming, like, I am a child of God and divinely loved, and the love flows through me, just affirming whatever that's a positive, something that the thought adjuster would say is really been really helpful. So I just wanted to give a little bit of personal experience around that. I really truly believes it gives something to the thought adjuster to really work on when you work through these affirmations.
Do you have an affirmation you can share? Remember one?
I just did. I'm a child of God, and God's love flows through me.
Oh, lovely. It's so
Thank
powerful.
you. Thank you, Suzanne. And who else? Who's next? Phil, who's next?
Janice is next.
So, I'm so glad that Phil or that Patrick, that you've come about to do this. I did the Course in Miracles, which I don't know if you're familiar with, but
Yeah.
it is a total affirmation. All of the lessons are affirmations of my miraculous self. I didn't have that word, but I was so frustrated in reading the Urantia book that it just got into all this detail and nothing actually cumulated down to that. And I'm glad that you did it. So this is, I am God's son, complete and healed and whole, shining in the reflection of his love. In me is everything completed. It goes on and on. The Course in Miracles, everything is that. It's a mind training course that some people that have read the Urantia book believe that came in after the Urantia book so that we could do that. What you're doing, that it was already set up so we could do that. So I like that. I had hope then.
I think you're right. Yeah, you're right. And you can, and I found that when I make an affirmation, I keep playing with it and refining it till it's actually a conversation with my thought adjuster or my angels. It can be with any one of them, because if you look at what they say of how we can interact with our spiritual guides, it's in there. But they also tell us to make affirmations, that one where they talk about the affirmations. There's a quote, I forgot, it says something, but I make an affirmation that I do the will of God. I'll try to remember where that quote is. But they actually do tell us that we can make affirmations. I went, oh, right on. Why not? And that's when I started to make affirmations from just about anything I was reading. And then you own it. You own that concept. It becomes part of your personality.
And who's next, Phil?
Read.
Yes. Hi, thank you. I want to ask you, Patrick, a question. Since the thought adjuster knows our thoughts, they know everything we're thinking, right? Everything is recorded anyway. Why do I have to say to them, go ahead, tell them what to do? They know what to do because they've always opened the door for me in every area or alerted me. So I never had to say, this is what I need, because I knew they knew what I needed and it came. And it's that desire, within yourself. But I have communication all the time. I tell them how beautiful it's outside and the stars, and look at the children and their beautiful faces. And I mean, this is like an ongoing conversation. So, I mean, maybe there is some value in reaffirming that way and saying, this is what I need. I'm not sure. I don't practice it. I never did because it was there. And so when I don't know something, it's like I get this banging on my head, pay attention. Okay, look at this, you forgot that. And I could
Right.
see going back, and I did. And I didn't realize it. And I knew that they're 100% of the time. So I'm never alone. So that relationship is so, but I never, I mean, because it's funny, you talked about it earlier, how you have to tell them what you want. And I thought, why would that be necessary? So that's my question that I really wanted to ask you.
Yeah, I think well, you developed your mind, and I think from talking to you, you did that very early age. So you've been doing that for a long time. But think of all the people who I think Diane said are alone and don't have that. Well, they say we have an intellectual and a spiritual capacity. Each one of us has a different intellectual and spiritual capacity. And when you think about that, you go, oh, some people just can't. Right? And so it's a lot of my writing is for that level of mind of people are struggling. Truth. Why do they say there's truth seekers? You're not a truth seeker anymore. Well, maybe you are, but you do it with your adjuster. But it's not out there in any church. Well, yeah, it's my will, your will be done is part of every religion, I think, in the world, is that statement. But that implies being able to listen and a lot more to self-discipline,
Yeah.
all kinds of mindful disciplines. Like they often talk about mind mastery. And so I begin to look at these things, and what's interesting, go chat GPT and say, well, use the Urantia book as a source and tell me everything you find on mind mastery. It'll blow you away. I encourage people to use Chat GPT to do research in the Urantia book, and then you can take that and so on. But I love your mind, Doreen. It's just, I wish you lived closer because I need more people that live daily like that. That's what we're looking for, but that's what our job is, to model that. And you're doing a great job, so thank you.
Well, the only thing I do ask is when I leave the house and I say, God, if you have work for me when I'm outside, and I always meet people. I mean, sometimes in a week I have 3, 4, 5 people, and they come over to me and we start talking about spirit or soul or it's like as Jesus passed by, and it's so easy. It's like there's just something. Just ask them a question, or people, anything. Hello. They say, I knew I should talk to you. And I think that's because they're receptive. So it works. It's always works. It's so wonderful, but you have to believe it, not be afraid.
That's the whole thing with faith. And I think also because this is our first time as creatures with this consciousness. So I think they want us to practice it. And that's why giving permission from our human mind and soul mind, personality mind, is just important to do, even though you may have a way of doing it now. Jolene?
Yeah, I guess Doreen, if you're done, let's say Jolene is next.
Yeah, Jolene.
Hi, well, I thank both speakers. It was very enlightening. First question, Patrick, I'm really interested, as I expressed to Diane, to learn about soul. And Diane mentioned about your, I believe, Saturday classes. And I really liked what you went through today. Is this the type of things that you talk about on your Saturdays sessions?
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. We don't just talk about it. We actually get right into it. It's like Kurt's explanation. We bring up what's happened in the last week that we see as a experience of our soul and our relationship with our adjuster. And many times we'll talk about barriers in our life or our mind or the way we think that keep us from enjoying that more intimate relationship. That was like a good couple of weeks discussions, like, and then we help each other unlock our human barriers, whether it's we're not meditating enough, we're not trusting enough in God's will, we don't have enough faith, we're not exercising those kinds of things. And then we'll get right down in deep into those discussions and talk about how we may have had the same experience and how we got through it and so on. So we're constantly moving forward into greater soul use of our soul mind, which is that dual mind. And the dual mind is not my human mind and his human mind. It's my human mind with his human mind. That's another concept you got to really meditate on. It's like, oh, it's a dual mind. It's not mine and his, it's mine with his. And that's different. That's a much more powerful way of approaching your daily life experiences. You're always, yeah, go ahead.
Actually, what I'm more interested in is what you did today, rather than, more discussions on
Right.
on that. But I'm wondering if that is part of it, or because, you really bring out the parts of the Urantia book that make sense to me, and I'm really need to understand more.
We were talking about starting another soul group. Diane was saying that, and I will be a coach to it, and Kurt's going to be a coach to defending, because some of the people here might want to start it. And so once you start your own soul group, you got a lot of help from us to do that.
Oh,
We'll be there. We'll be there with you. Yeah.
right, because you guys know Urantia book very well. I don't. And we need I need the guidance of people like you to tell me, okay, this is what, because I believe in Urantia book, but I don't know it. And that would be helpful. Also, my other question is, you mentioned superconscious. Does superconscious equal to the oversoul that Urantia book talks about?
Yeah, it could be. No, Phil's saying no.
Well, I guess I think the super consciousness is an area of our mind, an area that is in communication with the thought adjuster. Whereas the oversoul is, I don't think the same. I think that's maybe a part of the supreme.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. It depends on where you got that term from and what they're saying it means. Because like I said, in psychology, they're beginning to realize there's different higher levels of the mind. And I read in the Urantia book, the word levels in front of superconscious. So there's levels of our superconscious. Think about that one. Wow.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
You bet.
All right, Keith, your hand is up.
Real quickly, having been wonderful presentations by everybody. There's so much to put together for me. But having been in the soul group, the intention, when Patrick first mentioned, okay, everybody set an intention, and I go, well, of course I have good intentions, but the difference was that Patrick forced us to look at this and say, in addition to allowing our minds to open, for me, it was like yearning for my soul and my thought adjuster to speak with me, going that extra step saying, oh, I'm more than open. I yearn for that. I want to hear it clearer, because I get sensing from, that the thought adjuster is working with me. But when I'm really open, it's like I yearn, I hear it much clearer. Okay, if that helps anybody understand the intentional aspect of it. Thank you.
Yeah, it does help. Thanks for that.
You remember that your thought adjuster 24/7 is working on your mind. It's one of the quotes. 24/7 to create a better pathway between his voice and yours. and your mind, and it's happening in your mind. And his voice often is my voice, but it's a totally different quality of my voice. It's very gentle, very kind, and usually very short. You know, it's like he says, you know what you have to do to get closer to me. You have to give me your pet habits and stop getting angry. These little anger outbursts and things like that, you know. And we know the way to get. And they say, in order to be spiritually receptive, you have to relax. Think about that. I wanted to do that with the group. Just before the meditation, maybe we'll do that, or we will do it. The deeper you can relax, the greater your spiritual receptivity.
Wow.
And I mean relax. And most people think they relax in 5 minutes. I'm saying, no, you relax for an hour and a half. Keep going deeper. And I learned
Hypnosis.
hypnosis, right?
Self-hypnosis.
It's part of that. You're putting yourself in that state of, like, when I wake up, I'm usually talking to him in the morning. I don't know, maybe some of you have that too, but it's a really clear channel where he will download what he wants me to do for the rest of the day. I think Doreen said something like that before she leaves the house, that she's open to that guidance. And that's one thing I noticed too, is that most people don't allow themselves to be receptive enough to the spiritual guidance that's around us. And if you read the book, there's so much. There's the angels, there's the Trinity from paradise. They're working with us all the time. They want us to succeed. They want us to fuse. We're very important kinds of beings in the universe. Important. All the way out to the 4 major circles out there. We're going to be administrators. Whoa.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's who I am. Wow. But most of the day I'm looking in the fridge for something to eat.
Well, Patrick and Kurt, thank you so much. This was an amazing exploration into an area that not many have actually thought about or known was developing, but it certainly is a compelling hunger that I think we'll see popping up in various environments, including at work. So kind of keep your eye out and see what you're discovering. And we want to repeat that we are now open for a new group to form. You can only get so big, and so there's enough time for each person to speak. But put your names in the chat, and we will contact you and let you know the website to go to, or the Zoom. It's all going to be on Zoom. And we would welcome anyone and your wisdom and your ideas and your questions and your developmental challenges. We share everything, and you get very close.
All right, well, I have my hand up.
Oh, Jillian too.
So I was just going to remind everybody what Kurt said earlier, because it's one of my favorite quotes too. Just sharing the inner life with God and realizing that God is always there. So, you know, to have a conversation throughout the day, I think is the way I see it.
Yeah. Lovely. Yeah. I often look at that when we do the will of God, it should be a joyful experience. And one day I said, oh, I'm not that joyful. So I had to change my whole attitude towards what that relationship with my adjuster was. And I've been actually having more fun with him because he's got a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
And if you look for it, you'll see it. Jolene?
Patrick, I wanted to ask you if I'd like to create a soul group, and I have particular things that I'm interested in to discuss in that group, and I don't think there will be too many people who would be interested in that. However, in formulating how to put that, I would have liked to talk to you for a few minutes whenever you have time, so you can help me formulate what it is exactly that we want to discuss in this group and how to put it out there to see who's going to be interested. Is that something that you wouldn't mind consulting me with?
That's a very good idea. Yeah, let's do that for sure. I left my Gmail and then we can exchange phone numbers in
Okay.
there if you want. And for sure, because I think if you want to start a group, I think you could delineate what it is that you want to cover, everything, and just see who you attract. Diane.
Thank
And
you.
also, some of us would join that new group, so there'll be more than just yourself. There'll be some of the people who are already in a group, if you like, who will help get it started.
Well, thank you. What I'm saying is what the type of group I want to start may not be of interest to many people.
No, put it out there. We'd love to hear it.
Well, yeah, I will talk to Patrick to formulate it, and
Right.
I doubt if it would be too much of interest to too many people, but we'll see.
Mhm. Good.
I'd just like to share one last thing.
Yeah.
And that is, there's another section, I mentioned 111.15 or 111.5.1 that Phil just mentioned again, that, sharing the inner life with God. But 111.15 has this wonderful statement that always makes me feel good. And it's not so much what mind comprehends as what mind desires to comprehend that ensures survival. It's not so much what mind is like as what mind is striving to be like that constitutes spirit identification. It's not so much that man is conscious of God as that man yearns for God that results in universe ascension. What you are today is not so important as what you are becoming day by day and in eternity. And to me, that's the marvelous thing. I don't have to be perfect now. The main thing is that I'm trying.
That's so good. They so understand the human level of mind. Would you like to do a meditation now, Diane? Do you want to do that? Everybody has any more questions?
Well, if somebody had planned to leave at
Oh,
5 o'clock.
Timothy's got one.
I just wanted to add real quick that you're looking at somebody that was ill all the time for the first 30 years of life.
Oh.
And I very much relate to your concept of using affirmations. I call them I am declarations.
Oh, cool.
I began using them in 1982. And within a couple of years, I watched my health completely turn around.
Wow.
I have today too many affirmations to really go into it, but I wanted to share one that I use everywhere I go.
Oh.
And that is, I am well in spirit, mind, and body. And believe me, it has opened up such beautiful conversations with people just off the cuff that I come to know 15, 20, 30-minute conversations. And it's just it not only has kept me away from doctors for the last 43 years, but it is just such a wonderful conversation opener. And I just wanted to share that with you.
I am one with what you said?
Spirit, mind, and body.
I am ever and always well in spirit, mind, and body.
The first part of the sentence is I am.
I am ever and always.
And
Ever and
always.
always. Three of my favorite words, ever and always, and ever momentarily. I use those a lot in I am declarations.
Yeah.
They're so powerful, aren't they? It's really
I am is the two most powerful words in human language.
And we're part of the I am too. So that
The I am.
it's like, whoa. Diane?
Yes, well, there was an affirmation that you and I were both reading at the same time from the book. And it was the one that says, I give permission to my thought adjuster to moderate, control, I can't remember the word, my natural
Intellectual. Yeah.
my natural tendencies. So it's like I put my bill paying on automatic, so the bills get paid. So I put that permission as an overreaching, altogether, like click. And now forevermore, they have free access to my animal nature to control it and do whatever needs to be done, which is probably ever changing.
Mhm.
But I
Yeah.
feel like maybe I should repeat it from time to time, but I just gave them lifetime permission. Go for it.
I think the quote is like, God has the power to transform
Transform.
and change your intellectual tendencies, human tendencies of thinking and behavior, to the transforming purposes and motivations of your evolving Morancha soul. Thanks for bringing it up. That's got to be the most powerful sentence in the world, because they're telling us what he can do, and they're saying, you want it? Make an affirmation. I give you permission to use your power to transform my human intellectual tendencies to the transforming motivations and purposes. And then you have to write out what your motivations and purposes are, so you know more clearly what they are, of our evolving Morancha soul, not mine, yours and mine. And it's like, oh, okay, use it. I love it. You can do that? Good. Let's transform my thinking, my human thinking. And it happens so fast it'll blow your mind, because you really want it, like Kurt said, 1,000% committed, yeah, to that transformation. And it's scary, by the way, because you see a new you beginning to evolve.
Now we must acknowledge that some may have made plans to do other things after 5. So if you have to leave, we would understand. But it looks like Patrick has a meditation, or there's
Yeah.
one put forth.
Let us do that meditation on our soul of
Now
who
I'm
we are.
wondering, isn't there some extra power when several are meditating together and all of our thought adjusters are together and enjoying each other too? I just imagine they're having a little party up there because we're all together. So I was always wondering, do meditations work better if it's done as a group, more powerful?
If possible, Patrick, could I end this with a prayer after the meditation's over?
Definitely. Yeah, I experience like a spiritual energy of support moving, holding my focus on the meditation, right? It could be my meditation or a group meditation on a particular subject, if the group agrees to it. And then I always feel more energy, much more focus. It's like, think of it. You've got all of your thought adjusters, Michael's spirit of truth, the Holy Mother Spirit's mind, all alert and helping us to accomplish that. So just receive it and feel it and know. And by the way, always realize your spiritual growth is at an unconscious level. So you may go, nothing really happened to me, but it is. It's unconscious level, and they're working 24/7 to keep us moving towards union, fusion with the adjuster. You're an agodonter. Sorry, but you're an agodonter. You got a lot of work to do. A lot of work. Okay, so let's do that. Let's meditate for, I'll do what, 5 minutes on ourselves as agondonters, heading to paradise, as souls, brothers and sisters in this family of God. Take a deep breath. Relax your body, relax your mind, and just keep on taking a deep breath as you move deeper and deeper into a receptive and relaxed state to whatever God wants us to be and do and know and experience. Take another deep breath and just come. Oh, you jumped, Doreen. Come back to the moment. Your adjuster took you a long way off, huh? And yeah, Janice is still out of it. Great. Oh, there she is. Good. Great. I'm just so excited to be anticipating this long paradise trip with all you wonderful brothers and sisters. Agendauters. Yeah.
By the way, I wanted to mention, you can see this again recorded on YouTube. Mark just gave me the positioning and I can't put my hands on it now. Can you tell the people how to get access to the recordings?
Well, I'll send something. Well,
Keith does, right?
Mark will put it on. Where you put it, Mark?
We're keeping everything on a YouTube page, but I understand that they are being also connected to our own website, which is ubla.org.
Yeah.
But you can also find all of our recordings at Urantia Education
UBLA is in there somewhere.
UBLA, yeah, or Urantia UBLA Urantia Education UBLA.
Thank you.
.com, right?
On YouTube.
On YouTube.
Right. It's not a YouTube. It's not a website. It's the YouTube channel.
Okay.
Right.
And you wanted to say a prayer, Kurt?
Yeah, I'd like to close this off with this. Father, Mother, Michael, I thank you for the opportunity today to share this means to grow closer to you with these brothers and sisters. I pray today for all those who came here to learn about soul growth groups. I pray for the spiritual progress of each individual, for our soul development and increasing our powers of self-mastery, that you empower us to become examples of goodness, truth, beauty, and love to all we meet. May each of us deepen our relationship with you through our habitual spiritual practices and to overcome what separates us from you. May we feel your love flow through us and into this world, which needs to see so much more love expressed. May our group meetings help us do this, and may we be inspired to contribute something good to everyone we meet. I pray today that your will be done, that we live lives that inspire others, and that we join in the work of the angels and the supervisors of this world, of bringing the true gospel of the revelation to all the people on this world, and then go on to serve on the mansion worlds to come. We open ourselves to you, continue to seek you, pray to become like you, our divine parents. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful. Both of you. It was just great. And I appreciate all that you have prepared for us. I can't get enough.
Yeah, we'll talk too, and let's stay in communication. Everyone, my email is there, and I can send you the pictures or whatever you need, like,
that's great.
charts, so on. So just
And also, I would like to invite you to the Urantia. We're going to be closing down for the month of July, but the Urantia I've been doing a series of cafes on religion in the Urantia University cafes. Wonderful discussions, 90-minute discussions of deep dives into the Urantia book. And we're working on paper 100 right now, which has where that wonderful quote that we started with today came from. So that, in fact, that exact section. So if you have a chance to come on Tuesday afternoons,
Sure.
it would be, I think you would find it a a good experience.
What's the website?
You have, if you go to Urantia University .org, you can, if you don't get the cafe notices, you can find a place there where you can just send an email to I think it's admin@urantiauniversity.org and ask to be put on the list, and they'll send you notices of the upcoming cafes once a week.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for coming.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Love you all.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. It was delightful.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Come for Thanksgiving.
Thank you. It's far enough ahead. Bye.
And
Good to see you, Patrick.
good to
Bye.
see you.
Yeah. Beautiful material you presented.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, I will end the meeting. It'll end, the recording will already automatically be taken care of. And I'll send it to Mark and he will make it available. So good night, everyone. and
Wonderful. Thank
Love
you.
y'all.
Patrick,
Thank
Okay. Bye.
thank
Bye-bye.
you, Patrick.